Am I up? All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian, and definitely an alcoholic and a lot of other things. Um, so I am definitely secular. I grew up in the church, and I left it in December 16th of 1973, the day that OJ rushed for 2,000 yards. I was a running back in high school that year, and I told my mother I'd been going every Sunday since 5 years of age, that if I went to Sundays, if I had to go to church Bible study that day, I was a freshman in high school, I would never go again. And that was the last day I ever went. I went to church, I cut class, and I never went back. Broke her heart, but that's the way it goes. And then my older brother, Rick, goes, well, I never have believed in God. So if Brian's not going, I'm not going. Oh, Mom, so sorry. But my two younger brothers were, I can't remember what you call it now. They went all the way through, and they're still Christians. So good for them. I'm really big on Kevin Griffin's Buddhism and the 12 Steps. And I'm not a Buddhist, but there's so much in there that has helped me emotionally and in recovery. Kevin Griffin's been in AA for since 1985. He's been all in on AA, but he's all in on Buddhism. He's teaches at Spirit Rock. And I have this wonderful teacher in AA. His name is I call him Professor Dave. He got his PhD from Stanford mathematics, but man, when it comes to all forms of study, he's amazing. And his daughter just got back from 5 years in India where she taught meditation. So it's been a great experience with Professor Dave. He leads our Step 11 Motley Bunch at an Alano Club here in Orangevale, California. So today's reading was it says addicts, but for alcoholics hiding out, bailing out, and giving up our habits that we have to break. Addiction is all about avoiding life, avoiding responsibility, and avoiding anything we find uncomfortable. That's why persistence is so important in recovery. First, we learn to show up for meetings. We discover the importance of consistency and being part of a group. We see that even when we don't like it, we benefit from following through on our commitments. So today, I'm going to make a commitment to stay close to my recovery program, reflect on the importance of persistence no matter what. And I definitely, he's talking about meditation in those, and I bypassed that part. But so that's one possible topic, persistence in recovery. And the other one, which has been profound for me, is my moments of clarity. So what I got? 2 more minutes? I will start really quick. Let's see. I grew up in Santa Clara, city of Santa Clara, which is 40 miles south.
20 minutes and more.
I know. South of San Francisco. Just an incredible place to grow up. We had lots of orchards to play in. As far as I'm concerned, my dad was Superman. There's nothing he couldn't do. He's still alive and kicking ass at 90. My mom's still alive at 88, and she's doing pretty good. So I grew up in a family where there's no alcohol. My dad was the youngest of 11. He grew up in a small farming community in Blooming Prairie, Minnesota, right at the border of Iowa. And my mother grew up 20 miles away, and right next to the Hormel factory where she worked. But anyways, my dad didn't drink because all 7 of his brothers were World War II vets. And 4 of them were really bad alcoholics, brawlers. And 3 of those 4 moved to California. So I knew all those uncles growing up. And it was weird because from a very young age, I used to see, bless his heart, but especially my Uncle Harv, man, he was one of those really, really bad drunks and quite the fighter. And I would see him because they lived like 3 or 4 blocks away. And wow, I got to see the damage done there, but I just know that my dad was never like that. I didn't really know why. But my dad never drank until he's in his 40s, and he's not an alcoholic, and so I grew up in a household with no alcohol. And like I said, my dad was just go, and he still is. In fact, at 90 years of age, he split 10 cords of wood last summer. I helped him for 3 hours. I ended up at the spine doctor. He said, I don't need your help anymore. He goes, I don't need you getting hurt. All right, Dad. Oh, my back. But my first trouble with alcohol. Well, you know what? It's weird. I remember this like yesterday. I was 5 years old, standing in the backyard by the pool, and my Uncle Tom, one of his brothers, handed me a beer, and I took a sip. And my dad, I swear to God, I thought he was going to punch his brother Tom, who was a Golden Gloves boxing champion. So that wouldn't have been good. But my dad, he's also a badass dude, incredible man. But man, he was pissed. I couldn't understand why he was so mad. I just took one sip off a beer. The age of 9, my youngest brother's in the hospital, almost dying. He's like 8 months old, got third-degree burns over most of his body. So my mother's at the hospital taking care of him. The reason I mentioned that, because the police showed up at our house, knocking on the door. I'm 9 years old. I answer the door. They say, this incredibly large policeman says, is Brian Oswald here? And I said, yeah. And he looked at me, he goes, you're Brian? I go, yep. He goes, you better get your dad. So the charges were breaking and entering, possession of stolen property, and a minor in possession of alcohol at the age of 9. It was not that big a deal. We stole beer from the neighbor's garage. Me and my buddy Roger drank it. We split a 6-pack and a couple cigarettes that we stole from his father. So at the age of 9, when we split that 6-pack, I didn't dislike the taste. In fact, I liked it. The cigarettes didn't make me sick. So me and my buddy Roger knew that, hey, that was fun. Let's go do it again. So it was the second time when we stole the 6-pack that we ran out of the garage. The neighbor kids saw us doing it, and the neighbor came out and said, did you see who stole the beer? And they, back in those days, we had 20, 30 kids walking to school all at the same time, right? We had 60 kids on our block. So they say, yeah, Brian and Roger. So she could have just came down and knocked on the door, but instead she called the police. So I mentioned that last year to my mother. I said, remember when? And she didn't have a clue. She thought I was losing my mind. And my dad explained the situation, why he didn't tell my mother at the time, because she had enough on her plate with my youngest brother near death. But he survived, luckily, and he's 6'3", 270 pounds. So he's strong and healthy. But the thing was, when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, when I would sleep over at my buddy Roger's house, we'd make suicide drinks. His father, unfortunately, died of alcoholism 2 years after he retired from Lockheed Martin. And so we would make these incredible drinks. We mixed everything under the sun in a water glass and split it. We never got sick. No, we got stupid and goofy, but we never got sick. We never disliked the taste. No, we were mixing whiskey, gin, vodka, wine, liqueur, and we thought it was incredible. So the only thing I didn't like was the really warm sherry that we used to steal from his dad. But so even at a young age, I could drink lots of alcohol and not get sick. At the age of 14, his crazy brother Gary, a Vietnam vet, 12 years older than us. He was crazy before Vietnam, but he was violent. Mean dude, man. He stormed in the bedroom, took off the Beatles album, threw on Hendrix, and gave us a powerful hit of LSD. 4-way window pane, LSD 25. I fought dragons for about 8 hours in an orchard. Literally fire being spit at me from the sky. I played chicken with cars on this really busy street in my neighborhood. 15-hour hallucinogenic trip that blew my mind at the age of 14. I had no idea what was going on. That was not too smart of Gary. He was 26 when he gave us that. But starting in my freshman year in high school, mescaline and mushrooms and cross tops, all that was available. And all through high school, I continued on that path. Oh, by the way, okay, the summer before my freshman year in high school, I was a really good athlete, football, basketball, and baseball. Heck, my dad's in his high school Hall of Fame. My brothers both played college football. And they're both high school football coaches, and they have been for 25 and 27 years. But anyways, the summer before my freshman year, my mother took me to juvenile hall because I'd been arrested for the 4th time for shoplifting. I'd been caught with drugs twice. I'd started fires, broken into houses, broken into apartments, broken into cars. I was just, me and my buddy Roger, we never gave it a thought. We never hurt anybody. We were just impulsive kids, man. It's like, hey, let's go get some gasoline and start a fire out in this. And it was out in like, we lit our neighbors also had gunpowder. So we got the gunpowder, threw it out in the driveway, dumped the gas down the driveway and lit it up. I mean, the whole driveway was in flames. And that didn't go over too well. And then the last time we did that, his dad got home from work and he'd forgot to do the weeds in the backyard. So we said, get the gasoline. Seemed like a good idea. Except we burned up half his backyard. So yeah, we're just impulsive kids, always getting in trouble. My brothers didn't. And so when I left juvenile hall that day, I was scared straight. And all that crazy behavior, I never did again, except for the drugs and alcohol. That was definitely was huge in my life. So I'll go through this real quick. Freshman year, all league in football, all league in basketball. Baseball is my sport. San Francisco Giant scout Harry Pitkoff told me that as far as he's concerned, I had the ability to play pro baseball, not major league, but pro baseball. My baseball career lasted 3 games. In high school, I got kicked off the team and I said, well, F you, I'm never playing again. And I didn't. So right now, I mean, the character defects and not being able to deal with life and the fact that I'm already doing drugs and alcohol. So I'm not growing emotionally, to say the least. Talk about resentment, right? That's when I first started getting real resentments. Basketball. I was a hell of a basketball player. My sophomore year, I played 2 games. I scored 10 points and 11 points in back-to-back games in less than a quarter. And I don't know if y'all remember Kurt Rambis from the Lakers, but he was a year older than me. They had an amazing basketball program. So the coach, the next game, he was an asshole. I mean, he had an alcohol problem. He had issues with students, players. And so in front of the team, he said, you know, I was the problem because I was a ball hog and all I wanted to do is shoot. And I said to the coach, you're the one that told me to go in and shoot the ball and get the offense going. And that's all I said. And he said, that's it. Quit the team right now. I said, I'm not quitting. And he said, well, then you'll never play again. And I never played again. I sat on the bench. Anyways, resentments. There's another resentment. I never played basketball again. And I just started drinking more. So after football season, I had plenty of time to drink and use drugs in high school. I was, when I left 6th grade, the principal had my parents come in and they were really concerned about my future as a 12-year-old, because I'd spent most of my time in detention in elementary school. So it seems. I remember my dad said, you know what? I'm raising my kid. I don't need your help. And we got up and left, but I still remember that. So obviously I had issues, excuse me, with life, with myself, with authority figures. And I was just so, and school, forget school. I stopped studying in 1st grade. I've looked at my report cards and they really weren't that bad, but there were comments like Brian's mind seems to always be drifting and never paying attention, which is why I got in trouble, I guess. I was super hyperactive. I mean, 88 attention deficit disorder, ADD. Still got it. So does my dad. But so I used alcohol from a very young age to escape from reality. I'm going to mention something now because I got a call at 8:30 this morning. I've never mentioned this in 32 years of recovery. At group level, I've mentioned it to my sponsors, but the summer before my sophomore year, I was already like angry and depressed, and cystic acne kicked in. No one in my family has it. None of my brothers, none of my parents, my 7 uncles. I mean, so I don't know where it came from, but I got it, and I still have the scars at 64. And that gave me the excuse at the age of 15 to say, you know what, I don't care if I live or die. And now I had an excuse to drink, even though I was already drinking and using. Now I had an excuse not to give a shit about anything. And it still affects me psychologically to this day. And I have an appointment at 10:45 where I get injections into the scar tissue, which really, really helps a lot. So I'm grateful for that. But so when I graduated from high school, I had no plans. I tell my dad real quick, you know what? I'm going in the military, just like you. And my dad served during the Korean War, and you're 7 brothers. And he just flipped. He said, "You're not going in the military." He goes, "No." He'd never it was always like great war stories, right? Now, you know, my oldest uncle, he was the right-hand man of one of the great generals. I just slipped my mind. Oh my gosh. Historical figure. He's 20 years older than my dad, but wow, okay. Well, I still was going to join. It didn't matter because my buddies went in, because a lot of my buddies were like me, no plans. So we're going in the military. But I got a job in the newspaper business November of 1977. And I had till the end of the year. I was going to join in January. So my first day on the job, my boss says, "Do not drink, do not go in the," no, he said, "Don't go in the parking lot." So I went in the parking lot, and I didn't know it, obviously, but I'm standing with 8 men that are Vietnam vets, alcoholics, bikers with the Hells Angels, meth dealers, and those became my mentors at the age of 18. So for the next 13 years, I never drew a sober breath. Passed out at work, reprimanded, suspended, and fired from work for drinking. It was absolute insanity. And I've shared in meetings like those last 7 years, I didn't sleep because of speed and cocaine. And I don't need to get any stories about that. It's just the fact I drank and used every single day. I didn't miss one day for 13 years. Thanksgiving, 1990. I'm working back to back shifts. So obviously I need speed to stay awake. Very physical job. At about 2:30 in the morning, right before the shift was going to end, my buddy Vinny, who was my supervisor and probably the strongest man in the world, 5'8", 300 pounds. And he had also been my drug dealer, and I never seen anyone drink or use as much as him, but he was now my supervisor. And because he was my supervisor and my ex-drug dealer, I felt like, F him. So I went to hit him with a 48-inch steel core across the head. And I'd never been in a fight since I was 14. But I'd been up for 3 days, and he'd been on my case all night. And as I went to hit him, I'm not kidding, like a light went off in my head. And I was instantaneously sober. And I didn't hit him, luckily. The garbage bin was right behind him where we threw the cores. The expired 48-inch newspaper rolls that they'd expired, and you're left with that steel core. Anyways, I walked away, and he's screaming at me, and I said, "Hey," I just knew that I was done. Something went on. That was my moment of clarity. I was done with drugs and alcohol at that point. And that was November of 1990. By December 5th, I was in the Kaiser program. It was a 2-year program at that time. No AA or outside meetings were needed. They were going to teach us how to live life. And it worked. I never missed one meeting in 2 years. And I was the kind of person that was not responsible and was not persistent, did not show up when I was supposed to show up. And in that first 2 years, they'd asked if anyone would volunteer to go to AA and report back. So I did. I think I'm running out of time. So quickly, you know what? I stayed sober 23 and a half years. My kids never saw me drink. I had 2 years of sobriety when my son was born, 4.5 when my daughter was born. And like the way I was brought up, I was there for my kids every day. I was like, I graduated at the bottom of my class in high school. My son was class valedictorian. My daughter, 4.4 GPA. My son graduated from UCLA. My daughter from UC Davis. They're both really successful. And I know one thing, they love me and I love them. And They've never seen me drink, even though I relapsed at 23 and a half years. By then they were out of the house. I drank for a year and a half. I'd asked for a divorce from my wife. I'd been married almost 30 years. I didn't have a plan. So I stayed there for another year and a half after I started the divorce proceeding. It was like September of 2015. I moved to Sacramento in January of 2017. So that was a weird year and a half, going through a divorce and still living with my ex. But I saw my son as he's going back to UCLA for his last few months of schooling. And I had my first panic attack ever. And I wasn't drinking a lot because I was lying about it and hiding it. And that next day I got into recovery as 2015, or whatever it was. Yeah, 2015. And I stayed sober 200 days. I went to meetings 7 days a week. And I told everyone there, I'm not done drinking. I got to get through my divorce. I got to get my head straight. Late September, I started drinking again. Didn't drink that much. I moved to, divorce was final in January. I moved to Sacramento area in February 1st of 2017. So I was going to drink for 1 month like a gentleman and then get back in recovery. My first night, I almost drank myself to death. So that first February 2nd, as I sat right here at this table, I thought I had brain damage. I drank 60 ounces of vodka the night before, and I'd only been drinking like maybe 4 ounces of vodka at the most at a time. I was controlling my drinking, but psychologically the obsession was killing me. So now I'm going to drink like a gentleman for 1 month, like I said, and I almost drank myself to death. I immediately got into AA the next day, but I couldn't quit. But I was going to quit March 1st, April 1st, May 1st. My daughter graduated in June, definitely June 1st. I was going to quit. I was still drinking the day she graduated. I dropped my son off at the airport. Now I told my son, hey, I'm an alcoholic. My kids never knew that. I'm an alcoholic. I started drinking again. My son's like, what are you talking about? He was just like stunned. And I sat him down and I told him the story. And then when I dropped him off at the airport, I could see the fear in his eyes. My second moment of clarity, when I looked him in the eyes, I could see the fear in his eyes. So 4 days later, I got sober again. And I've been sober since June 21st of 2017. That was an emotional day, still is when I think about it. And I've been totally involved in recovery since. I immediately got involved in Buddhist recovery, and I went Life Ring. Thankfully, I love Life Ring. I've been doing that for over 10 years. I still do it today. And they had 3 meetings a week here in Sacramento. So, and I was also super involved in AA. But I was always an outcast with my non-belief. So I sent an email to my home group last week because I had a business commitment for this year. I told them I can't do this anymore. I'm out. I belonged to secular recovery. The meditation meeting and the Alano Club where we're like the outcast of AA. We don't read How It Works or the 12 Traditions, and we have 8 meetings a week. 8 meditation meetings. We all do our own thing. The secretaries, I secretary a few of them. And I'll just finish with this. Last year was incredibly difficult because I quit going to my home group last year. At the end of December 2021, I was done with AA, but I hadn't told them that. And I had a lot of emotional problems last year. I mean, big time, because there's this one more thing that I was letting go of that I needed in my life. The thing about AA was the in-person thing, right? The fellowship. Luckily, I found that meditation group, and we have a Buddhist study group that came out of that. People with 20, 30, 40 years of sobriety, that I had no clue that there was that many agnostics in these meetings I was going to outside of my home group. And I've met them last year. I met all those people. They're a part of my recovery. And I'm so grateful for this group. I wish I shouldn't say this, but I'm grateful I found it finally. maybe 2 months ago or so. I was doing lots of Zoom meetings but I never saw this group. I don't know how I missed it. Well, now I got that spreadsheet on my computer. That's how I found it. It's incredible. So recovery is huge. Persistence, like the thing I read at the beginning, every day. I have Monday through Friday. I'm really, I have a very disciplined program. I need it because I'm incredibly undisciplined and hyperactive. So I have this program on the weekends. It's a little looser. I have no desire to drink. I'm grateful for all the recovery that I have and all these different programs. And I'm grateful for everybody here. Thank you for letting me chair the meeting.